The Ole Miss Rebels take on Middle Tennessee State in Oxford as the non-conference slate for the Rebels continue. We're here previewing, predicting, breaking it all down. Another Saturday in Oxford, Mississippi. Hello, everyone. I'm Chris Phillips. He's Cole Thompson. I appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in. Make sure you like, subscribe, turn notifications. Check us out via podcast, wherever you get your podcast. You can also find us across all social media platforms as well as our website, SECUnfiltered.com. We're brought to you by our friends over at GameTime. Download the GameTime app and use promo code SECU for $20 off your first purchase. Again, guys, it's our friends at GameTime. Promo code SECU to get $20 off today. The Ole Miss Rebels welcome the Middle Tennessee State Blue Raiders to Oxford, Mississippi as the non-conference slate continues for Lane Kiffin's program. And we are here previewing, predicting, breaking it all down. I am Chris Phillips. I'm joined by my good friend Cole Thompson. Once again, Cole, what's going on, man? I appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah, you know what? We're going to be talking about Dartnado. We're going to be talking about the Heisman Trophy winner. We're going to be talking about the guy that has now tied Joe Burrow for a record set in a game. We're going to be talking about an Ole Miss Rebels team that showed dominance. We're going to be talking about a team that has absolutely the top player in college football at his position. And I'm not overreacting at all. You know, Furman is a very solid team. Just Ole Miss is going to be a world-class ass beater that defines the entire success of the SEC. Lane Kiffin, I'm looking at you. It's not rat poison. Confidence. There's a giant difference, young sir. Do not come at me in the comment section.
Ole Miss doing in week one what we expected, 76-0 against the Furman Paladins. And again, this early non-conference slate, Cole, we talked about it. It's not meant as disrespect, folks. It's just honest. Ole Miss probably one of the only teams in college football that you feel like kind of plays a preseason. So, for lack of a better way of putting it, kind of has a similar feel going into this weekend. Again, kickoff at 4:15 p.m. Eastern, the SEC Network in Oxford, Mississippi at Vaught-Hemingway Stadium. Ole Miss, a 40.5-point favorite. The over-under set at 62.5. These teams have met once before, Cole. Ole Miss leads the series 1-0. The last meeting in 2001, Ole Miss won that game 45-17. As we talk the Blue Raiders, Cole, there's a familiar face on Middle Tennessee State sideline. Derek Mason is in year one as the head coach. Of course, previously the head coach at Vanderbilt. He spent some time with SEC Network and in true typical football guy fashion, just had to get back on the sidelines. Middle Tennessee State beat Tennessee Tech 32-25 in their season opener. Their quarterback, Nicholas Vateo, I may be mispronouncing that. He is their QB1, went 20-35, 1 TD, 1 pick in the opener. Javonte Sherman, their top weapon at wide receiver. Amari Kelly, the leading wide receiver, though, in week one. Very inexperienced on defense, Cole. Just 2 starters are back this season. So as we turn our attention to breaking down this game, a lack of a better way of putting it, Cole, this is another tune-up game for Ole Miss. So let's just call it for what it is. All due respect to Derek Mason. Did a great job on SEC Network. He did a great job at Vandy. Love Derek Mason. Got nothing but love and respect for him. They are overmatched. They are outmatched. I mean, let's just call it for what it is, right? The 40.5, my eyes go to the spread, Cole. I don't think that's enough, man. I don't think that. Is it 40.5 in the first half? Because that's kind of how Ole Miss is operating right now.
Let's just go ahead and also give a little bit of credit to Derek Mason. He's taken over a program that is completely changing the identity of its culture because of what have we known about the Blue Raiders. They've been ran for decades by Rick Stockstill. So this is a brand new era of Middle Tennessee State football. And it's one that's going to come with its trials and tribulations, and it's one that's going to have its gripes. You want to see a change of direction for this program moving forward because if you were tired of being a middle pack team in your conference, so it's going to be a battle. It's always going to be a battle. I think we knew this. And I will say this, for the level of competition that you face off against, it will differ from Furman. It will be a little bit more potent. It will be a little bit more sturdy. It doesn't mean that the results are going to be any different, but the game planning, you still have to stay ahead of the 8 ball. If you are Ole Miss, the last thing that you want to do is feel complacent going into the first half of a game. Because of, yes, the talent is there. Yes, we know what the expectations are. And yes, we know what the expected score should be. The problem is, Chris, is that when you play such a relaxed early schedule, when you play these type of performances, it's very easy to find yourself falling behind, trailing, not giving your entire best, leaving about 80% left on the field instead of the whole 100, Trey Harris said after the game against Furman that we are making sure that we are crossing our T's, dotting our I's. We are making sure that we are a team that is going to be prepared. We are not being complacent. You can't be complacent against any opponent because of when that matchup comes against Kentucky, when that matchup comes against South Carolina, when you're preparing to face off against LSU in Death Valley, a place where dreams go to die. These are the type of games that you need to be prepared for because of you're setting a standard on what to expect in the first quarter against an opponent that actually could give you some fits.
Cole, I'm going to steal your thunder a little bit when it comes to Dartnado because I'm going to talk about Jaxson Dart.
Oh, boy.
I don't give a damn who the opponent is. I think what we saw against Furman are why so many like yourself, like myself as well, sprinkled a little jingle on those Jaxson Dart Heisman odds because it is an embarrassment of riches on the offensive side. And then you've got a guy in Jaxson Dart who knows how to utilize it all. You know, he talked after the game about how comfortable he is in the offense and, you know, behind that offensive line and with the weapons he has. Cole, again, I don't care who the opponent is. 22 of 27 for 418 yards and 6 total touchdowns. At halftime, he had that at halftime. It was 52-0 at halftime. What you saw on Saturday against Furman is why people are buying into the whole Jaxson Dart for Heisman campaign. He's got the weapons around him. He's got the skill set. Now he's building the confidence early on in the season. Again, opponent be damned. You have that type of performance and you're clicking on all those cylinders and you're getting guys involved and, you know, you've got your new pieces you're getting involved like Juice Wells. I believe, Cole, what we could have seen on Saturday against Furman was the start of Jaxson Dart's run inevitably to the Heisman Trophy. Like he's that caliber of guy. Yes, this is overreact to week one. Yes, it was against Furman, but you put together those type of performances, he's going to stack these performances early in the season. That dude is going to be riding with so much confidence going into SEC play. Good luck, SEC defense is slowing down this train. So Dartnado, as you say, Jaxson Dart for Heisman. Let's get the campaign started early because what this dude is doing, what he did, and what he's going to do, I don't see anybody slowing it down.
The thing you said, though, the higher the rise, the longer the fall from grace. That confidence level could be at an all-time peak, and then it takes one blundering defensive performance to be a shutout to watch people come back to reality. But he ain't coming back to reality, Chris. I have been high on this kid since last year when he played against a Penn State defense in the Peach Bowl and said, I want to come on back. I want to have a last dance moment. I know what this atmosphere is going to be like for me. I'm not satisfied with an 11-win season. And you want to know what the beauty of NIL is? A moment like this, where a program like Ole Miss is probably watching a Trey Harris go get drafted. They're probably watching a Caden Prieskorn test his luck at the NFL level. They're probably watching a Jaxson Dart go from being a guy that's maybe a future day 2 pick to flying under the radar, but still getting his opportunity to make it at the NFL level. This is what the beauty of NIL is. You get to see these programs keep talents that are very hard to come by stick around. And I am not going to say, let's get this campaign started, Christopher. No, sweet Chris. I have been campaigning for weeks at this point. Pay attention to the number 2 down in Oxford, Mississippi. He's got the weaponry. He's got the arsenal. He's got the playbook. He's got the performances. I don't care that it's FCS Furman. You start playing at this level, people are paying attention. First time since 2019 when a whippersnapper by the name of Joe Burrow decided to deliver a performance of a lifetime has some quarterback in the SEC thrown for 350 yards and scored 5 touchdowns in a half. And those numbers are going to continue to stockpile to where you look at when he does play in those big-time games, those prime-time moments. If he has numbers that are sufficient enough with the numbers in these other, what we would call probably underwhelming games, it's enough to sing into the Big Apple. And I'm going to tell you what, you build that confidence level up, there is something to be said. I have compared this, and I'm sorry that my neurism is kicking in. I don't really care. It's Jaxson Dart. This is my guy. This is
Dartnado.
This is Dartnado 2.0. We are embracing what is the land shark equivalent of a tornado that comes to Oxford, Mississippi. It feels like at this point, Lane Kiffin is Obi-Wan Kenobi and Jaxson Dart is Anakin Skywalker in Revenge of the Sith. I have nothing left to teach you. He has nothing left to teach number 2. What number two's got to do is prove why he is the number one passer in the SEC. I said at the start of the season, we did our quarterback rankings. I don't know who you had at number one. I did tiers. I said there was one tier, Heisman worthy. It was Jaxson Dart. So far, Cole Thompson sitting at 1-0 in that stance.
Yeah, Cole, I'm kind of to the point where I don't care if it's an overreaction. You mentioned Joe Burrow and that 19 LSU team, and I'm not going to go as far as to say they are, but they have like a very similar. They have the makings of a team like that.
They do.
Really, like it's just dude after dude after dude. This game against Middle Tennessee State, Ole Miss is going to win, Cole. We know that. I'm excited to see more from Ulysses Bentley and Henry Parrish, the two running backs. I mean, they gave the rock to so many different guys. I mean, they ran for 243. Bentley had 6 carries for 23 yards. Parrish Jr. 8 carries for 40. Even Jaxson Dart had 6 for 27 and a touchdown rush. So I mean, they have so many guys. Even Rashad Amos got in on the action. 3 carries for 10 yards. Right. Then you look at the wide receivers. Juice Wells was a guy coming from South Carolina that Gamecock folks made the jokes about him, like not being healthy and not playing. 2 catches for 70 yards and a touchdown. He looked pretty damn good to me. So if Juice Wells, Cole, like we knew Juice Wells was out of this Ole Miss team, but if Juice Wells is at the level he was in 2022, he was regarded as the best receiver in the conference coming into last year. And you add him to the weapons you already have, and Trey Harris, I mean, went off 8 for 179, 2 touchdowns. Buddy, good luck. Good luck. Pick your poison. Pick your poison. So, continuing to establish, create explosives with a guy like Juice Wells, getting him involved. It should be another offensive showcase here, Cole. And, I think getting Juice Wells involved is a really, really good sign for the offense.
You want to know what also is pretty amazing? You didn't have Jordan Watkins out there. So he had not been playing because he was dealing with a lower body injury. He had been missing some time in practice this past month, and he has really been limited in fall camp. But if he plays, is that score worse? I mean, are we talking about a beatdown of a lifetime to where the Arkansas Pine Bluff Arkansas game is just kind of a blip on the radar? Oh yeah, cool. Look at what Taylor Green did. No, look at what's going on in Oxford, Mississippi. What I really appreciate about this game, and I'm gonna be that. I'm gonna be that dude, and I'm okay with this. And this is where the Ole Miss fans are gonna come follow me in the battle. We're gonna go be tied, kumbaya together. There's a lot of speculation after what we saw down in Gainesville, Florida, that Billy Napier is not going to be around much longer, and that probably Scott Strickland is pretty close to being out the door. And there's a coach by the name of Lane Ridiculous Kiffin that loves the state of Florida, Sunshine State. Just had to go ahead and say his fond farewells to his father Monty, that's now departed out in Tampa. They're putting the two together. What do you have in this young core behind guys like Trey Harris, behind guys like Jordan Watkins, behind guys like Caden Prieskorn, that you feel are good enough to keep you in Oxford? And I personally think so many people are just pegging Lane to want to leave. Well, you do realize that his son is moving to Oxford next year. His daughter is in Kappa Kappa Gamma and is a proud sorority member and student at the University of Mississippi. There is reasons for him to say, I've established a home, not a job, but a home in Oxford. This feels like my place. And I'll tell you what, you start winning out in Mississippi, you start winning out at that program. I know what the contract says. I know what the rules and the state regulations come to when it comes to actual state officials being paid in certain deals. They'll make it worth your while. Keith Carter has made it clear they have some money and they have some resources that they're willing to put their money where their mouth is too. And much like you're seeing right now up in Knoxville, where they are building facilities and athletic complexes and also game day atmospheres that turns the corner of volunteer football, don't be surprised if you start seeing it down in Bott Hemingway. Don't be surprised if you start seeing it down at the Grove. This is where, in a game like this, you want to see your young players take that next step forward, because Lane Kiffin is going to be a sought-after name this offseason. And much like it was when it was Auburn, it didn't feel like the right fit. If you feel like that past this year, the last dance does not apply to you, It applies to the guys who are going off to their final next step in the NFL or whatever their future endeavors hold. But for you, it's just another chapter in the great stage of Rebel football. This is where you do it. You do it in these type of games to make sure that players who have committed to Ole Miss football and Lane Kiffin are speaking the same language moving into 2025.
And to your point, Cole, I will refrain from any of the Lane Kiffin leaving Oxford talk until that becomes a reality. I don't think it's really fair, honestly, to the Ole Miss folks that are going to be enjoying how great of a team they have this year. We're not going to be the entity that's bringing that up on a weekly basis. If it happens, it happens. But the speculation at some point becomes a bit old. There will be a time and place to talk about that, but that's not going to be something we are pushing or, because to your point, it does seem like Lane has made Oxford a home. And right now, like, why would you leave? Like,
there's no reason to.
He's built something really special there. Cole, defensively, I just kind of marked down here, I want to see Pooh Paul Jr. again. It was really fun to see him flying around 8 tackles, 2.5 tackles for loss, half a sack in the game. There's so many, obviously, defensive stars, but I think he's a guy that you could look at as the leader of the defense. Cole, I'll ask you before we get into our predictions. It's an empty the bench game for the Rebels. Is there anything specific you want to see outside of Ole Miss just flex their muscles in this one?
I want to see Yam Banks have a good game if possible. I think that's a player that if you get him moving around, you feel pretty confident in his direction. He had, I think, 1 tackle in this game. That's somebody that I do believe can be a difference maker on the back end. And again, you feel like that with Ole Miss, so much that was talked about was their ability to build within the trenches. Like everyone has brought up Prince and Manley Yellen coming on over and Walter Nolan coming on over and the names that were added in on the offensive line and the depth of this squad. But as good as a pass rush as you can have, you still have to be able to blanket wide receivers. And we've seen over the last few days several SEC standouts in conference play to where you cannot be complacent. And I think that having a guy like Yam Banks, having a guy like Key Lawrence, having an Isaiah Hamilton, those type of players really step up. Trey Amos comes on in. That's a sign in the right direction. I feel like that during these first several games, these matchups of the beginning of a start, this is where we're going to have, I think, the exposition to find out who your dudes are. I know what a dude I'm getting in Trey Amos after FCS Furman. I want to see a guy like Ian Banks be that dude for Ole Miss in 2024, especially in a game against Middle Tennessee.
So, Cole, that being said, let's move into our predictions for this one. I'll let you start. How do you see this one playing out?
Dartnado's a god. Dartnado breaks every single record that has ever existed in college football. He ends up throwing for 75 touchdowns in 1/2. I mean, that's just now. It's going to be a solid game. I think you're going to see a very similar approach to where they make the explosive plays come out swinging. They establish a good identity on offense. They consistently are pushing forward when it comes to the drives. They're not finding themselves being complacent. I think Lane Kiffin has made it very clear to this team that the rat poison is alive, and it doesn't come in playing against opponents where you're compared to an Alabama or Georgia or an LSU or a team that can go deep in the playoffs. I think what he's made clear is that we know how good we are internally to play against those teams, but we got to show it against the lesser tier opponents. That way, everyone else knows when you face off against us, we are not being complacent. So I think that he has this team very well prepared. I think that this is a very solid week of practice for them. They're going to end up winning. I'll be a little bit nicer. I think that you will allow a late touchdown. Derek Mason and the Blue Raiders do put on points for the first time this year at Vaught Hemingway. But ultimately, I think that we're talking about a 53-7 victory.
Cole, I agree with you again. I think it's an empty the bench game. I think we're going to see more of Austin Simmons at the quarterback spot, maybe some Walker Howard, because to your point, Jaxson Dart, I think a company, whatever the first half line is, hammer Ole Miss. I mean, like I mentioned, the spread in this game is 40.5. I mean, I don't feel like enough to me. With the way this offense works, and I know you're kind of banking on what are the backups going to do, but this Ole Miss team is deep. I think they're going to flex that yet again. I think you're going to see plenty of explosives in the passing game. Ole Miss back on the ground yet again, which is a very underrated part of their offense. I think they're going to run at will. Derek Mason, got a lot of respect for him. He's probably going to do a great job at Middle Tennessee State, but this is a total mismatch. To your point, I'm going to go Ole Miss 63, Middle Tennessee State 7. I wrote down 10, but I don't think they get to double digits. I just don't. So I'm going to go 63-7. You went what again?
53-7. So
yeah,
you got
we're right there. I mean, I could see this again. It was 52-0 at halftime against Furman Cole. I could see this being 42-0. I could see this yet again being that type of game. I think Ole Miss is just going to continue to flex their muscles, continue to win in big ways, and build confidence. And that's what you should be using games like this for. Let's just call it for what it is. So,
gun to your head right now. 3 touchdowns and 300 yards for Jaxson Dart in the first half.
I'll go over. Why would I doubt Dart?
I will go over.
Why would I doubt him? I mean, I just don't see Lane Kiffin being a guy who's going to let off the gas pedal in the slightest. I mean, I think they're going to continue to operate this thing at an optimal level and take shots. And I mean, dude, it's going to be hard for SEC defenses to stop this team. Sorry, but Middle Tennessee State's defense has no chance. They don't.
My big thing is that I've had to learn very quickly that when you doubt somebody, give you a reason not to. I've said for multiple times, give me a reason not doubt USC's defense. They shut me up. Give me a reason to shut up about Jaxson Dart. Until that happens, I'm sorry. I'm hammering 303 tutties every single half against all these lesser tier opponents because I think that you really are talking about this is not being a hyperbole. This is straight up, but God's honest truth. It's the beauty about SEC Unfiltered. We're out of the box, but we also are true to our word. I am true to my word when I say Darknado to the Big Apple. That's not something that I'm predicting. That is something I am certain is going to happen.
So Cole Thompson and I have locked in our predictions. Ole Miss, Middle Tennessee State. How do you see it playing out at Vaught Hemingway Stadium this Saturday night? Guys, appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in. Make sure you like, subscribe, turn notifications. Check us out via podcast, wherever you get your podcasts. You can also find us across all social media platforms as well as our website, secunfiltered.com. For Cole Thompson, I'm Chris Phillips. Appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in, and we will catch you on the other side.